What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of JohnnyVTV Live, but it's a special edition because this Friday edition, we're starting a new show, myself and Andrew Caley tackling the best bets of the upcoming week. In this case, it's week 2, and doing a little recap on what happened last week. So without further ado, we got my man Andrew Caley from Covers. What's going on, man? How you doing?
We're doing very well. Pretty fun week 1 we had there. The week started off pretty well last night. Hit a couple of touchdown scorer props last night. It saved my ass because I was on the under like most people were last night, and I had Washington as well, and that just. That was just such a crazy game. If anyone told me like that was how that game was going to play out, I would have called you nuts. And I wouldn't have bet. If you had given me a total of like, I don't know, if you had told me the total was 50 and you said it was going to score 60, I still would have said it was going to go under. So it's and that went over that as well. It's just been a crazy couple of weeks of football to start us off.
You know what? It's crazy, bro, because I saw you live tweeting all day last night, like during this game. I'm like, oh my God, this guy's gonna be a wreck. Like, bro, I gotta say, like, nobody hits Blue Jays props like you do. And so, like, I really circle my calendar from when you're putting out a Blue Jays pick. As for Thursday night games, bro, like, one thing I've learned, I had to learn this the hard way when I was younger. I don't bet Thursday games. I have to absolutely love something to bet a Thursday game because you see what happens. Like the Giants were 0-5 going into last night. They're 0-5 on the road, or 0-5 in general on TNF since 2016. Like they're not good, but like they really did enough to win the game. Like there was a really maybe a bad call on the offsides for the game-winning field goal. It's just so finicky. It's very strange, and it's not something like you could put a lot of stock in for Thursday night because, bro, like anybody out of nowhere could just have a big game. It's so unpredictable.
Daniel Jones had a great game last night, and even though he has played well in the Thursday Nighters, you just he hasn't won, and you kind of just, is he good or not? I still don't know if he's good or not. Like, he made some incredible plays, but then at the same time, anytime he had a clean pocket and actually set his feet and made a throw, it looked like he missed the throw, and it's infuriating. And we get next week, I believe it's the Panthers and who's it? The Panthers and the Texans. And then we've got Jacksonville and Cincinnati. So we're not getting any better matchups coming anytime soon.
We got some interesting, to say the least, matchups. But listen, man, like Danny Dimes looking like Vanilla Vic out here. I mean, he should. I was so mad when he got that one call back. I really want to know who, if you had Daniel Jones, first touchdown scorer, drop a comment, please, because I'm dying to know what you guys got him at. That's a great pick, and that had to pay out some pretty good dividends, I got to say.
It was at some places I saw it as high as 30-1. The book I used was 24-1 to score the first touchdown. I got him to score a touchdown at plus 450, so that was one of my ones that cashed. So thank you, Danny Dimes, for that.
Danny Dimes. So listen, like week 1 was interesting. You know, we had 3 teams. They had the Packers, the Titans, and the Falcons. Just came out flat.
Oh yeah,
they came out like they didn't even realize that they were playing last Sunday. Like I think they thought that this week was the opening week. So you know, it's really interesting. And I got to say, for week 2, we have to see how these teams are going to respond, because the fact of the matter is, you got a team like the Titans and the Packers that are supposed to be contenders for a Super Bowl in their eyes. I mean, Atlanta, not so much, but you would think that Arthur Smith's bringing a different dimension to this offense as he ran in Tennessee. So they really need to turn it around. But Caley, you know, with week 2 here, what are you looking forward to the most? What matchups are you highlighting?
What I'm highlighting right now, because I was ragging on the Texans a little bit there, I'm going to keep ragging on them a little further. A team that also disappointed a bit was, I'll say they disappointed. It was Cleveland. They had the Kansas City on the ropes, and they just couldn't put them away. Obviously, you know that Kansas City is going to come back and throw a punch or two, but this Cleveland team wants to get to a Super Bowl. They want to be the AFC champions, and they're going to have to go through Kansas City to do so. But they should have won that game. I thought they outplayed them for most of the game. Meanwhile, Houston I think they are coming in off a really pretty lucky spot last week. I think this Urban Meyer experiment in Jacksonville is just going to be an absolute disaster. His team did not look prepared. Did you see him answer that question this week too? When they were like, "Oh, are you linked to that USC job?" And he kind of like look down at his feet and wouldn't make eye contact, and his voice got really quiet, and he's like, "No, yeah, I'm committed to this team, yeah, 100%." And I was just like,
it was very Nick Saban-esque before he peaced and went to Alabama. It was like, very Saban-esque.
Could you be less convincing about that? But more about that later, I guess. But I think the Texans obviously at least are a little more of a veteran team than Jacksonville. That's it in that sense. But they get a tough spot here against a Cleveland team that's going to want to take out some frustrations for letting that game get away from them. Houston is still not a good football team. I love minus 12.5 if you get it. I'm seeing mostly 13s now. If you want to buy that half point, I would prefer that. But I think even though it's a big line, I have Cleveland as a 14-point favorite. So there is some value in 12.5 and 13. So I just think they're going to run all over Houston in this game. Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, both are going to have big games in this one, and I don't see Houston putting up much of a fight.
It's interesting you say that, man, because I could honestly see Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt both have great games. I always get spooked about these 13-point spreads because you get a backdoor cover. I mean, let's just quickly address last week. And I put 20 plays on my slate from TNF Sunday night and Monday night. I still came out 55%, but if we look at it, I got hosed. And listen, it's not going to happen every day. I got hosed. I had Tampa -8. They cover the 8 if Chris Godwin doesn't fumble going into the end zone. Like, when does that happen, right? That's one. 2, the Lions and the Niners. The Niners are up 28 points. They let 20 straight unanswered points come back because George Kittle's, he's booting onside kicks. You got Deebo Samuel fumbling. They're letting them convert the 2-point conversion to make it 8. Like, that's outrageous. And then I think the icing on the cake was the Ravens. Wouldn't you know that the Ravens are, since 2004, 98 straight games they've won when they were up 14 or more points at any point. And what happens? Not only did they not cover, but they flat out lost. So, I mean, like, that stuff doesn't happen every week, but you have to ask yourself, like, on a 13-point spread, you got to think that, like, some of these backdoor covers are going to come home and just absolutely destroy you. Personally, I'd probably rather put, a couple prop bets in. I like Nick Chubb. I think Nick Chubb's over 84.5 rushing yards.
Love that.
I apologize, 88.5 rushing yards. I think the over on that's pretty good. Like Kareem Hunt, I would take a shot on his as well. I mean, I'd probably rather go prop bets because I got to think that the Browns, they're going to get up to a nice lead and just continue to just ground and pound and run that rock.
Luckily, they've got two backs who are better than a lot of team starters. So that's why I kind of have confidence in that play. I like them both to score an anytime touchdown as well in this one. That's another thing I'm looking at here. I just think Houston, they're running into a buzzsaw for this one.
Yeah, man. I mean, Tyrod Taylor and the Texans.
He's great. He could win comeback player of the year. You want to make a random bet for futures bet? Maybe take Tyrod to win comeback player of the year after getting stabbed in the chest last year by his own doctor. So if he won't turn over the ball. You know that. He's not going to throw any picks, but I just don't see them generating much against that defense.
Nah, man, for sure. I think it's going to be difficult. Like we said, maybe a backdoor cover. The Cleveland's up 21 points midway through the fourth, and they start playing prevent defense, and then you get like a backdoor cover on there if the line ticks up. But you know what, man? There's a few high-flying games, high totals this week that I'm really looking out for. I got to say the first one's got to be the Cowboys at the Chargers. This is an interesting one. Dallas is losing key players at positions, left and right. They just lost to Marcus Lawrence. He got hurt in practice. He's gone approximately 6 to 8 weeks. And, that headline's the biggest loss that they have. And don't get me wrong, that's a big one. But even still, like, do we think, are they capable of keeping up with the Chargers on all cylinders? Like, we know their offense could be, but their defense is very suspect. What do you think about this game here?
I actually love the Chargers in this matchup. I'm going to lay the 3.5 points with them. I really liked the way the Chargers O-line performed against Washington. But now I say that, and I'm sitting here and I'm like thinking about the game last night, and Washington didn't have much success in getting pressure against Daniel Jones last night. So maybe it's besides Chase Young is great and he does his thing, but like that was a defensive line that's touted as being like one of the best in the NFL. And they just couldn't get the pressure they needed on him. So, but I did like the way they played and I like the way they ran that offense. I think Herbert should absolutely shred the Cowboys secondary in this one. And I'm going to lay the 3.5 points.
It's interesting here. I'm sorry. What were you saying?
Sorry, I was just gonna say, it's been noted too. The Cowboys, they just don't score as well on the road. So I think getting this at near a field goal is pretty good.
It's funny you mentioned that they don't score on the road. So just a quick couple stats. If you look at their splits from the last couple years, 2020 they scored 19.6 points on the road as opposed to 29.8 at home. 2019 it was 22.1 on the road, 32.1 at home. 2018, 17.9 on the road, 24.9 at home. So you're noticing a trend here. Yes, they pretty much don't put up as many points on the road. It's just like the nature of the beast. Listen, they ran into Tampa Bay. You're not running the balls effectively. Zeke, I wasn't high on him coming into the year. I mean, I thought he would have an okay year, solid at best, but I think the Zeke of old's gone. The 2017 Zeke, running for 1,600 yards, 15 touchdowns. I don't know if we're going to get that guy. LA's got a good defense. I do expect to shoot up like most people, though.
Sorry, Pollard looked like the more explosive back in that game last week. So that's a good point.
No, absolutely. And in terms of the public action, we got 57% of the public bets on Cowboys plus 3.5, plus 3.5, whichever way your book is leaning. But there's a lot of action on the Cowboys, but it's not unbalanced. It's not lopsided. It's very even keel, which is what Vegas wants. These books want these lines to not be lopsided. And you know what, man? I really could see the Chargers win this by four plus points. They are good, and they honestly, in my opinion, watching them on Sunday against one of the best defensive units in football, they played so much better than 20 points. Justin Herbert, he had 3 drops. They had 3 drops right off the bat. And in my opinion, they might have had 5, even 6, if you're not considering some of these drops, but balls he should have caught. There was a phantom fumble in the red zone where it was clearly an incomplete pass. I don't know how a fumble goes forward 25 yards and out of the end zone, but it did. So, there was a couple unlucky breaks on last Sunday against Washington. So you're going to expect them to put up more than 20 points. They certainly played like a team that should have scored 30. And I think against a much weaker Dallas defense that just lost their best player is going to result in that. And I got to be honest, man, if the Chargers aren't scoring 30 points here, I'd be surprised. So, and, we love when Dallas gets in comeback mode. Dallas is one of those comeback mode type of teams that they can move the ball, especially against softer defenses. I mean, honestly, I want to lean towards the over. If you want to get in a teaser, I do think Dallas is going to do enough to cover the spread again. So I might even do a same-game teaser, put the Cowboys at plus 9.5 and tease the over at 48.5 because I do think this could be one. But, there was a lot of late action. This over-under started at 52.5 and it ticked all the way up to 55.5. So, you definitely got to keep an eye on those lines.
I don't hate the Chargers team total over 27.5 either. I really might make a play on that.
I got to say the biggest matchup that I'm probably looking at is, especially for Dallas, CeeDee Lamb operates primarily out of the slot. Now Michael Gallup's out, so it looks like it's going to be Lamb and Cooper, and they're going to be getting most of the snaps, as they should. But a guy like Lamb's going up against one of, if not the best slot corner in football, and Chris Harris, who is, he's pretty good, man. So this is going to be one of those matchups that Lamb is going to have to win if Dallas wants to have a chance, because as great as Amari Cooper played, Cooper's not all there every week. I think Lamb is the big player of this offense. Coop did look great, though. I can't deny it. He looked fantastic.
They lost Michael Gallup as well. I think that's an underrated loss for them as well. He was working pretty hard in that first quarter of that game there, and then now they don't have him, and I think that's an underrated loss for the Cowboys.
Absolutely, man. So you're in on the Chargers minus 3.5.
Yep, you got it. Well, throw Chargers team total over 27.5 too in there as well. I like that a lot.
I got to be honest. I'm more into the Chargers team total 27.5 over. I think they're going to put up 30 against Dallas. I don't know if I could see Dallas stopping them. Yes, Trayvon Diggs looked good week 1 against Mike Evans, but I mean, honestly, I don't know how much of it was he looked good versus Mike Evans versus Brady just like the other matchups better with Antonio Brown on nobody corners. Anthony Brown, like I think there's definitely something to be said. So it's going to be intriguing to see. But honestly, off the bat, I like the team total for LA first.
Yeah, I think it's a good play.
So, Caley, next one we got here is an interesting one as well. We got the Titans at the Seahawks. Seattle's -6.5. The over-under is 54.5. This was 5.5 for most of the week, and it's recently got up to 6. Now 6.5. Are you laying this 6.5 with Seattle, or do you think the Titans are going to rebound?
That Titans defense looked so bad last week, and everybody said, like, oh, the Titans defense is going to be bad, but the offense will be good enough to make up for it, and then they just got destroyed by Arizona last week in Kyler Murray. And like Russell Wilson's a similar type quarterback. He can move. He moves more than the offensive line would like. I'll say that. But Seattle has tons of weapons. Chris Carson in the backfield, like Lockett and Metcalf. Like it's a lot for that Titans team to overcome. I think I'm going to stay away because I just didn't see the Titans starting the season 0-2. Like, I don't think many people did for that matter, but I don't have faith in either team really. Seattle is always playing games closer than they should be for the most part, and then Tennessee, I expect them to play better than they did last week, but I'm not fully there to trust them. And this gets to 7, maybe I'll sprinkle on Tennessee there, but other than that, I think I'm going to stay away.
So it's interesting. This is one of those games because everybody who listens to me knows my adage. I always take the road team getting 5 or 5.5. It's one of those weird things that you can't put it. You can't put an analytics on it. You can't put a stat on it. It's just one of those weird numbers Vegas can't handicap. It's just very difficult. So now this kind of moved out of the range and kind of bothers me a little bit. Which you'd be like, well, why are you bothered if you're getting more points? It's something the way the books are going with it, but. The interesting thing about this is since Russell Wilson came into the league, in home openers, he is 9-0 straight up. Average margin of victory is 12.6 points. However, since 2016, his wins have only been by an average of 4.4 points. So, like you said, like Seattle has this bad habit of keeping teams around. They keep teams in the game, and if you're back in Seattle with the spread, you want them to put them away. I mean, but I'll say this: Vegas desperately needs Tennessee to cover this. So this is why I'm kind of on the border here that I want to see Tennessee with the 6.5. I don't think they're as bad as they played last week. They were definitely a shell without Arthur Smith. It was not good. Tannehill is 2-0 in the last 2 years in road openers. Average margin of victory is 16 points, but I mean they haven't been that good against the spread. I mean they're only 7-10 in their last 17 games. Their games tend to go over 22, 8-1 in their last 30 in terms of over under. I'm going to side with Vegas though. I'm going to side with the house side. I think Tennessee is going to get this done at plus 6.5. Because I think they're going to get back to doing what they do best. They're going to run the ball, King Henry. They got to get back to play action because the last couple seasons they were mid-30s, like about 35% of the time using play action. And last week, guess what, dude? They only used it 11% of the time. Like you can't have that. You need to keep what's working. And as for their defense, like this is where King Henry's going to have to come in and have a good game. Like Seattle's defense is definitely better than what it was at the beginning part of last year before they got Carlos Dunlap. That move was gigantic and it was very underrated. But I think they're going to come in here and get back to the ground and pound game.
That very, very likely. But it's kind of funny. These are actually two of the teams that are like on my betting blacklist. Like it doesn't matter. I feel like the Seahawks and the Titans are the two teams where it doesn't matter what side I pick, I lose. So I'm going to stay away.
It's definitely always one of these games. I hate backing Russell Wilson because he always finds a way to hose me. I'll say this though, anybody who wants to throw Seattle in a teaser, I do think Seattle is going to walk away here with a win. Just a quick note for everybody: Seahawks are 55-17 straight up at home since 2012. They're 41-29-2 against the spread, 37-34-1 on the over/under. that's obviously since Russell Wilson came in, so they do win games at home. But 12-4 last week were the underdogs. With the spread, there was a lot of upsets. The favorites aren't always going to win. It's weird, man. You got to go against the grain here. You have to. Which brings us to another big game that everybody and their mother is going to back: the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Baltimore Ravens. Chiefs laying 3.5. This is another one where Vegas is praying Baltimore comes in. And let me tell you something. In case you don't know this, when Vegas wants something, they usually get it. Caley, what do you think about this game?
I must be stupid. I think that's what it is. I'm a square. You can say what I just don't understand the line at all. I think the Chiefs played poorly last week and still came back and beat a AFC title contender. While the Ravens just they look disjointed on offense against Las Vegas, and they had chance after chance after chance to put them away, and they just could never put them away. They didn't get pressure on Derek Carr, which was I found pretty shocking. They needed to blitz to get pressure. That's not if they can't get pressure on Patrick Mahomes. If Derek Carr was able to rip them up, well, what do you think that Patrick Mahomes is going to do? Darren Waller had 10 receptions. Yeah, Marlon Humphreys did a good job. He broke up about half the plays, but Waller still ended up with 10 catches and 100 yards and a touchdown. I don't know what he can't cover. He can't cover Kelsey and Hill and Hardman and CEH out of the backfield. He just can't. I'm back in the Chiefs. You're calling me a square, but I'm on the Chiefs.
It's strange, man. You know what? This line opened up at 1, and everybody, if you know major injuries haven't happened, it might behoove you to start taking the lines Sunday night, Monday morning early, getting a jump on them, because you could have got the Chiefs at -1 here. That's basically a pick 'em, which is a steal. I'll say this here. I have no reason, zero, to want to take the Ravens, except for the fact that 83% of the bets are on Kansas City. That's alarm bells. At +3.5, the Ravens, listen, I think they're going to lose. I really do. I don't have any reason to find them winning. Lamar Jackson has never beat Patrick Mahomes. Mahomes is 3-0 in his career versus the Ravens. 1,136 passing yards, 10 total touchdowns, 9 passing, 1 rushing, only 1 pick. He averages 378 yards and 3 passing touchdowns per game against them. The Chiefs have outscored them 94-72 in the 3 matchups. I mean, it's absurd. Kansas City's won 27 of their last 31, 20 of their last 22 versus the AFC. Here's the thing, though. They could win, but Baltimore can cover. It's just for the simple fact, and even with Baltimore's injuries, they're ridiculous injuries, and they're probably not going to have Ronnie Stanley. They're going to move Alejandro Villanueva to left tackle, who had a really bad game against the Raiders.
And he's a guard naturally.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. But I think I have to side with the Ravens +3.5. I do.
I get it. They should play. Obviously, they didn't play well last week, and Lamar Jackson can still be special. I still think he's a very, very good quarterback, and it was good to see him involve Sammy Watkins in the passing game, and Hollywood Brown had a pretty good game as well. But these injuries for Baltimore is really what kills it for me. And I don't know, they just didn't have that. They should have won that game, and they had so many opportunities to put away Vegas, and they just couldn't. And I don't know. I just can't fade Patrick Mahomes here. I just can't.
I hate fading Patrick Mahomes. And listen, like I said, it's just not every time you back the house, they're going to win. But It's just one of these weird things. Football's just it's weird. It's a weird game, and I do think Kansas City is obviously the better team. I really don't see how Baltimore's even going to have a chance. But that's how you. This is like some of these trap things when you don't expect it to happen. I have a couple prop bets coming up next that I would much rather take than actually taking the line here. But anybody that doesn't want to feel comfortable putting the 3.5, I would probably tease Baltimore up to 9.5. Maybe in another game. I think Baltimore getting
9.5 is a pretty good play, I would say.
Yeah, it's much more. You could stomach it a little bit better than the 3.5. But
I actually really like that. I actually really like that. If you do the 7-point teaser there and bump them up to 10.5, I think that's Baltimore in a teaser at plus 10.5 is a pretty good play, I would say.
You put them through a key number. You put them through a key number, and listen, Baltimore played terrible. They especially played really bad on defense in the second half, mainly in the fourth quarter and overtime. I think they're going to mix it up, and I have a feeling that Baltimore probably ran a lot of vanilla schemes on offense.
With this game on tap.
Yes, because they didn't want Kansas City to watch too much film on anything special. I think they're going to have a couple tricks up their sleeve. Listen, it doesn't make sense, but I have to side with the house here. I'm having a tough time doing it, but I said the same thing on a couple games last week.
Makes sense, man.
And look how the house did.
It's a sound argument.
So,
I can't.
Right. It's it doesn't make sense.
But man, sports betting's hard. I keep telling that to people. I've been tweeting a lot the last couple nights here for football, and some people don't like what you put out there. And if this was easy, we'd have much nicer houses, man.
That is true. So as we're wrapping up the show here, we each got a few player props. I'm gonna start out with mine here. We got Matthew Stafford over 277.5 yards. Listen, he absolutely slung the ball all over the yard against the Bears Sunday night. Matthew Stafford, he's ridiculous. Now there's a good chance that Darius Leonard might sit out. He missed practice yesterday. Haven't gotten an update yet for today, but I can't not back Matthew Stafford. I mean, I think he's probably going to go for 315 yards, a couple touchdowns, have a good game, fresh off what he did Sunday night. Next, we got Mahomes over 316.5. This is probably my favorite play. I just mentioned it. He averages 378 passing yards per game against the Ravens the last 3 seasons. Mahomes could get 250 in the second half alone. So I think this is a good bet. And an interesting one here, Stephon Diggs over 6.5 receptions, minus 138. You're laying a lot of juice for it. But if you look at Stephon Diggs in his last 16 regular season games, Caley, he has hit the over in his receptions 15 out of 16 games.
Not bad.
You might say, well, he's got Xavier Howard, he's got Byron Jones, but he did pretty well against them last year. He had 7 catches plus in both matchups, and he cooked them for 138 yards in the first matchup. So, Your Honor, no objections. What say you, Mr. Caley?
Also, shout out to you for getting that Matthew Stafford MVP bet in. I kicking myself for not doing that. It looks pretty. It's a good start. It's a good start at that value, particularly. Okay, for me, I like Mike Williams to go over. I couldn't believe when I saw his receiving total. We talked about that Dallas defense. His receiving total this game is 56.5. He went for 8 and 82, I think, in week 1, and he had a couple of drops. But what I really liked is Herbert targeted him 12 times in that game, and Dallas essentially has one good defensive back. They're going to have to pick their poison between him and Keenan Allen, and I just think he's going to easily get over this number, 56.5 here in this game. And second, I love Chris Godwin to score a touchdown this week, a receiving touchdown. He was the most targeted wide receiver in week 1. In the red zone, the most targeted receiver in the red zone last week. Brady targeted him 4 times, and he converted 1 for a score, obviously. He also scored 3 times against the Falcons last year. I like him to do it again this week as well.
This could be a long game. This could be another weird one. I'm telling you, like, it's the way the Falcons play the Bucs for the most part. It's a very easy spot for Atlanta to put up 30. I mean, they're coming off a stinker, and Arthur Smith knows he's got his head on the chopping block already after a very poor performance, and I can see Atlanta come out, and it could be a shootout. Everybody's expecting it to be under and Atlanta get blown out. Atlanta is the most unpredictable team in the NFL, bar none.
I'll probably be throwing over 46 or over 45 in a bunch of teasers this weekend as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Caley, what else you got for the best bets of week 2?
What other bets do I have here? I'm also going to. I already said I took the chart. We have the Chargers minus 3.5. I already said Browns 12.5. Broncos minus 6. That's another bet. Teddy Two Gloves. We talked about him last week. He is now, and you mentioned this. Now he's 37-14 ATS as a starter in the NFL. The Jaguars are just. I think they're a mess. I would prefer to get this number at 5.5, but at 6 is fine. Anything less than 6 is good for me. I really like the way that Denver went out there. They're not going to turn over the ball. They're going to run the ball. They're going to play good defense. And I think they're Like, they're a well-coached team. They're a football team, and Jacksonville's just the complete opposite of that. I don't care that they're at home. I don't think Urban Meyer has this team, like, in any sort of shape to be playing football games. I don't know. It's a mess.
This is what we're talking about when we're saying getting lines early, because Denver opened this at 2.5. This thing moved up 3.5 points. That's tragic. Now Denver's 71% of the public bets are on them, so it's teetering on the fade the public territory. But I'm curious to see, because Teddy Bridgewater I don't think he's ever been a 6-point favorite on the road before.
Nope, he has not, and it's been a long time since Denver has been this big a favorite on the road too. But I love Trevor Lawrence too. I was just like, oh, this is a good pick for this franchise. He's going to turn them around. And then they hired Urban Meyer, and I was like, oh, Jesus, like, come on. And then he goes out and wastes – like, I like Travis Etienne too, but you don't waste a first-round pick on that guy. You just don't. It's a mess. They're a mess.
Teddy Bridgewater, 22-3 in his last 25 starts against the spread.
So good.
The cover king.
So good.
So for the Gambling Guinea, yours truly's best betting trends of week 2. I'm only giving you a couple, so you're going to have to make it work. You're going to tune into my weekly taste this weekend to get the rest of them. We got the Colts plus 10 and the Vikings plus 10.5 in a little 6-point teaser. I highlighted this on Tuesday. The lines have maybe moved a bit, but this is what I got it at. I still like them at their current lines at 9.5, and well, actually both of them should be at 9.5 roughly, so I still will play it there as well. I mentioned it before. I like the Titans plus 6.5. This is against the grain because there's a lot of money that people are backing Seattle with, and that's why the spread is probably getting even bigger. And if you get this up to 7, I think it's worth taking a shot on Tennessee. As good as Seattle is at home, and I do think they win, and if you want to throw them in on a teaser and almost a pick 'em, be my guest. I don't hate it. But they have a bad habit of keeping these teams around late in games, and maybe you get a backdoor cover, maybe not, but just, take the better team. Vikings plus 3.5. I think they're primed in for an upset. I really do. I think Arizona, as well as they played against an underperforming Titans offense and defense for that matter, I think there's a little too much hype on them. I think Minnesota did get off to a bit of a slow start the other day against Cincinnati, but this is one of those overreaction games. I think Minnesota getting 3.5 on the road, it was 4.5 before. I think they're in prime position, not only covered, but get the flat-out upset. Last but not least, the Colts at home, plus 3.5 to the LA Rams. I think the LA Rams pull out a close win, but this is another one where the book is seeing crazy action on the side of the Rams. At one point earlier in the week, it was 90% of the public bets on LA. That tells me to go take the Colts. I think they shook off the rust. After the first half, they looked a little bit better, and I think they're going to come out and play a much better 60 minutes of football, plus 3.5. If you got it at plus 4, that's awesome. I think the Colts cover, but the Rams win. Your Honor, no objections.
Love it.
So closing out here, we have the Emerging Player of the Night brought to you by Emerge Sports Group, our boy Jay Hen. I'm going to take this one. I haven't done one in a while. The guy who just lit it up, he was the guy I highlighted all offseason. I thought he could not only be the best receiver in the Bucs room, but the most valuable. And I think he could be a whole lot higher at the conclusion of the year, maybe top 20. Antonio Brown, 5 catches, 121 yards, and a touchdown against Dallas. I mean, for whatever reason, this was mostly done in the first half. He did have a drop. It could have been probably more for like 6 for 135 and a tutty. For whatever reason, Tampa Bay stopped playing him in the second half. Brady didn't have him in there. Arians didn't have him in there. And he could have had a much bigger game. Against the Falcons, I think Brown is going to demolish them. I don't see who's going to be the answer for him. It's probably going to be a lot of A.J. Terrell on either Chris Godwin or Mike Evans. So A.J. Brown is going to be getting maybe Fabian Moreau in the slot or Kendall Sheffield. Or it might be Isaiah Oliver. But I can't not love Antonio Brown. I'd probably play his over as well. So –
yeah, another great call by you there. He, over his receiving yard total, 725. You had it out there. He he's like a sixth of the way there after one game.
If Antonio Brown goes out there and has another 100-yard game, and he's got 225 through 2 weeks, and he looks like he's going to be on easy street.
Yeah.
So heading into week 2, Andrew, what are your final thoughts?
I'm just excited to, like you mentioned here, overreactions. I'm excited to see teams like the Cardinals, see how they play, like the Steelers. I had no faith in the Steelers going into the season, and they came in and put up a win. So I just want to get more games under our belt so we can get a real feel for these bets. A lot of, like you said, a lot of overreactions in week 1, so we can start to actually see who is good and who is not after a second week here.
No, absolutely. I'm going to stick with that and go on the other side of the overreactions because I mentioned it at the beginning of the show. The Packers, the Titans, the Falcons, 3 teams that had higher hopes, and the Titans and the Packers had Super Bowl aspirations for coming into this season, realistically speaking. And like I said, they all came out flat, no life, no fight. They just looked lost. They looked like they were expecting week 2 to actually be the start of the season. So I want to see if they punch back. They got knocked in the mouth. They got knocked down. Are they going to come back and put up a good fight? Because all 3 of these teams have the capability to score 30 points in any given week. I want to see it this week.
Good job.
So that wrap. What?
I'm sorry. No, Sam, that's great. That's good advice.
So, no, I appreciate that, man. No, absolutely. I appreciate that. I really do want to see it. But thanks, everybody, for tuning in. You can follow us on Twitter @_JohnnyVTV. He's @Caley_coverage. We're giving you all our best plays of the weekend. Keep following us because the lines are going to be moving quickly. We want to make sure you get the best number. Follow me on Instagram @GamblingGuinea. I will give you my entire slate. Hope everybody enjoys a wonderful week 2. Take it easy.